I woke up that Tuesday morning to the sound of my phone buzzing relentlessly on the nightstand, the vibration rattling through the wood like a warning I couldn't yet comprehend. The clock read 6:47 a.m., far too early for anything good, and my head throbbed from the argument with Emily the night before. She'd stormed off to clear her head again, leaving me with a sink full of dishes and a gnawing sense that something was unraveling. I rubbed my eyes and grabbed the phone, expecting a work emergency, but it was a text from my neighbor, Mike, a guy who usually minded his own business. "Dude, you need to see this. Check your front yard. Now." I yanked the curtains aside and froze. There, sprawled across our pristine lawn in suburban Charlotte, North Carolina, was a tangle of Emily's clothes, her favorite red dress torn to shreds, and a half-empty bottle of whiskey I didn't recognize. The sprinklers were still running, soaking the mess into a muddy ruin, and I could feel my pulse hammering in my throat. What the hell had happened last night? I bolted outside, barefoot, the wet grass squishing under my toes, and that's when I saw it, a man's black leather jacket draped over the mailbox, one I'd never seen before, reeking of cigarette smoke and cheap cologne. My mind raced, piecing together fragments of Emily's late nights, her sudden girls' trips, and the way she'd been clutching her phone like a lifeline lately. Before I could process it, a car screeched around the corner, Mike, bleary-eyed, pulling up to tell me he'd seen Emily staggering home at 3 a.m. with some guy in a pickup truck. The rest of that morning was a blur of nausea and disbelief as I stood there, staring at the wreckage of my marriage strewn across the grass like some twisted art installation. Emily wasn't home. She'd texted me at 4 a.m. saying she'd crashed at her sister's place in Raleigh, a tower drive, but Mike's story blew that lie wide open. I dragged the soaked clothes inside, the whiskey bottle dripping onto the carpet, and started digging for answers, my hands shaking with a mix of rage and dread. That's when I remembered the Google Assistant on the kitchen counter. We'd set it up years ago, a silly gadget we barely used, but it recorded every command. I opened the app on my phone, scrolling through the query history, and there it was, timestamped 11:32 p.m. last night. "Hey Google, turn on romantic music." The voice was Emily's, sultry and unmistakable, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. She'd been here, in our house. I played it again, the digital echo taunting me, and noticed more commands from the past week. Dim the lights, play slow jazz, set a timer for 30 minutes. Each one was a dagger, carving out a picture of her secret life right under my nose. I sank into a chair, the room spinning, as the weight of her betrayal settled in. She wasn't just distant or selfish, she was a liar, a manipulator, orchestrating this double life with a precision that made me question everything I'd ever known about her. The woman I'd married 5 years ago, the one I'd built this life with, was a stranger, and I was the fool who'd missed every sign. The hours bled into each other as I sat there, drowning in the wreckage of my life, the tension coiling tighter with every new discovery. Emily finally came home around 6 p.m., her heels clicking on the hardwood as she walked in, her face a mask of fake surprise at the mess I hadn't cleaned up. She tried to play it off, tossing her purse on the counter with that smug little laugh she'd perfected, asking why I looked so stressed. I didn't say a word, just held up the burner phone, its cracked screen glinting in the light, and watched her expression falter for the first time. She stammered, her eyes darting to the door like she might bolt. But I was already on my feet, the Google Assistant history open on my phone, playing her voice on loop, "Turn on romantic music." The color drained from her face, and for a split second, I saw the real Emily, not the charming wife I'd loved, but a cold, calculating woman who'd gambled our marriage for a thrill. She started spinning excuses, work stress, a misunderstanding, a friend in crisis, but I cut her off, my voice low and shaking, telling her I knew about Chris, the jacket, the emails, everything. The air between us crackled with unspoken accusations, and I could feel the fault lines of our life splintering beneath us. The silence in the room after Emily's non-denial was suffocating, a thick fog of betrayal that clung to every corner of our once happy home in Charlotte. I stood there, the cracked burner phone still in my hand, its weight a symbol of everything she'd shattered, while she stared at me with those cold, defiant eyes I used to think held love but now saw only contempt. My mind was a storm of fury and calculation, piecing together the next move as she shifted uncomfortably, her fingers twitching like she was itching to grab her purse and run. I didn't yell or throw things. I'd learned enough from her deception to know that chaos wouldn't hurt her, control would. So I turned away, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water, letting the silence stretch until it clawed at her nerves. She followed me, her heels clicking like a countdown, and tried to pivot, claiming Chris was just a friend who'd gotten too close, that I was overreacting to a few flirty texts. The next few days were a haze of sleepless nights and obsessive digging, my anger sharpening into a weapon as I uncovered more of Emily's double life. I found a hidden credit card statement in her desk drawer, charges to a dive bar across town, a motel on the highway, and a lingerie shop I'd never heard of, all paid for while I was sweating through overtime shifts at the warehouse to keep us afloat. I hacked into her cloud storage using the password she'd reused for years, ironic how careless she'd gotten, and downloaded a folder of photos, her and Chris, a wiry guy with a cocky grin and that damn leather jacket, kissing in a booth, laughing on a pier, living a life she'd stolen from me. My hand shook as I printed them out, dozens of glossy proofs of her betrayal stacking up like evidence for a trial I'd never get to hold. The plan crystallized a week later, as I sat in the dark living room, the stack of photos spread across the coffee table like a map of her lies. Emily cared about appearances, her Instagram perfect life, her charm that won over everyone, her ability to twist any story in her favor, and I'd take that from her, piece by piece, without ever raising my voice. I started small, using her own tools against her. I logged into her social media from the laptop she'd left behind, posting subtle, cryptic updates. Sometimes you don't see the truth until it's too late, and watched her followers buzz with confusion. Then I escalated, uploading a blurry photo of the torn red dress from the lawn, captioned, "Memories fade, but some stains don't," letting her squirm as she tried to explain it away. She texted me, furious, demanding I stop, but I ignored her, digging deeper into her digital life, changing passwords, locking her out of accounts, deleting her precious curated galleries one by one. I mailed the printed photos to her sister's address, no note, just the images, knowing she'd see them and panic. I found Chris's number in her contacts and sent him a single text from a burner I'd bought. "She's playing you too, check her emails." It was a lie, but I knew it had sparked doubt, and sure enough, her calls to me spiked that night, desperate and unhinged. I didn't answer. I let her drown in the mess she'd made, each move tightening the noose around her perfect little world.